Good day, everyone. I am Gwen Fiona Mil Asasavis, the leader of Group 5, and we are now on Module 5. Today, we're going to discuss assessment in effective domain. And these are my group mates. We have Belle and Risha. Okay, so let's to start the discussion. Let me tell you what is the objective for our discussion today. Okay, so the first objective is to discuss soft skills and relation to assessment in the affective domain, and then second is to share one method that struck you the most, and then develop the assessment tools to measure learning in the affective domain. All right. Okay, so the purpose of this lesson is to for you to understand the importance of effective domain in an objective. Okay, so this will lesson will also help you see how effective domain help future students appreciate the lessons, retain them longer, and find connections in the real world. Okay, so this domain does not only benefit students, but as well as the teachers, as it will allow them to integrate values formation in all subjects or courses. So these topic will also serve as a guide to future education students learning in order to know the methods and how to develop tools to measure learning in the affective domain. Okay, so all right. But before we proceed to our final discussion, let's have an activity first. Okay. So we will be providing a link. Okay. The link will redirect you to the activity, and you will only be given 5 minutes to do the activity, and then we will be choosing two student or one to two students to tell what he or she has observed during the activity. Okay, for the instruction, you just have to circle 10 words listed below. Okay, so this is actually word search. This is a common game. Okay, so I hope that you still know how to do this. But just to remind you how to do this activity, let me tell you. Okay, so again, first, what you're going to do is just to circle 10 words listed below. Okay, and then words may appear straight across, backwards, straight across, up and down and up, and diagonally. Okay, so you can also check your work with the answers below. Okay, again, you will be given only 5 minutes to find all the words, and then type done in the chat box once you find all the words. Okay, so if it's clear, um, yeah. If the instruction is clear, type clear in the chat box, the, so that we can move forward. Okay, so now since the students are uh, done, let's proceed to our to the question analysis. Okay, so first question is this one. What did you feel during the activity? And based on the given words, okay, based on the given words, what do you think will be your topic today? Okay, and we will be providing the Google form for you to write your answers on that form. Okay. Okay, so in the Bloom's taxonomy, three domains of learning were identified. These are the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domain, right? So the cognitive domain includes mental skills or the knowledge. The affective domain dwells on the growth in feelings or emotional areas, feelings, emotions, and attitudes. While the psychomotor domain is concerned with manual or physical skills, okay? So in short, the three domains of learning are key as a meaning, knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So in this chapter, we will be concerned with the affective domain only, okay, for a balanced education. Okay, so let us not pay attention only to the development of the mind and the hands, which is the cognitive and the physical. Okay, all right. So let us also give attention to the development of the heart, which is the affective. Okay, for as the Bible says, what does it profit a man if the gains of the world but loses his soul? Indeed, what does it profit a man or a woman if he or she accumulates a lot of wealth with the use of his or her mind, which is a cognitive, in the hands, which is a psychomotor, if she or he is not able to fulfill, to have that fulfillment. Okay, so we have heard people say this one, this phrase, schooled but not educated. This statement points to the fact that um, much of what has happened in the education process was focused on the cognitive development. Today, however, we talked about whole child approach, social and emotional learning. So emotional intelligence and the quotient, intelligence quotient, and positive discipline and growth mindset, a mindset which deliver the same basic messages. So the equally important affective function of education. So Navarro and Santos assert this one assert the affective domain is the least studied and most often overlooked domain in an educational literature, despite the fact that almost every researcher or an author begins with a premises on the importance of the affective domain in the teaching learning process. The reason perhaps is the fact that the affective domain is the most nebulous and the hardest to evaluate among Bloom's three domain. However, it is important to realize that by tapping the potentials of the affective domain in enhancing learning, we increase the likelihood of real and authentic learning among our students. Okay? So, similarly, students may experience effective roadblocks to learning that can neither be recognized nor solved when using a purely cognitive approach. Okay, so um, uh, indeed, learning is not only cognitive process. Okay, it is not only cognitive a process, but it is a also emotional process. Okay, so as research shows that SEL not only improve achievement by an average of 11 percentile points, but it is also increase pro-social behaviors. So what are the pro-social behaviors? Pro-social behaviors are this one. Wait for a while. Okay, these are the pro-social behaviors. Yeah. Okay. So, well, one is kindness. That's an example. Kindness, sharing, and empathy. These improve students' attitudes towards school and reduces depression and stress among students. The five key skills of SEL, namely, is the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decisions making are in effective domain, and so are the concern of assessment in the affective domain. So now let's proceed to soft skills and effective assessment. Okay, so learning outcomes in the affective domain include soft skills in contrast to the hard skills, or what we call technical skills. Soft skills are non-technical skills that refer to how one works in the workplace, how one interacts with others in the workplace, and how one looks at problems and solves problems. Okay, so there are categories of soft skills. Okay, and these will be discussed by Maribel Baal. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Maribel Baal and I will be discussing about the categories of soft skills. So the five key skills of SEL can be grouped into four categories that most school leaders, teachers, and parents would agree are within the responsibility of schools to monitor and develop. These are the social skills, self-management skills, academic soft skills, and approaches to learning. So social skills include how a student interacts with other students as observed by teachers and other adults. And self-management refers to self-regulation, for example, the student's ability to take control over what would otherwise be automatic reactions by planning, focusing attention, reframing experiences, and using mental tools. Lack of self-management is manifested when a student blurts out responses which suggests a lack of thoughtfulness. And the third category, which is the academic soft skills, are both social and cognitive. So their defining feature is their ancillary role in carrying out traditional academic tasks. For example, the ability to work independently. And finally, the category of approaches to learning includes such things as the students' engagement in school, pleasure in learning, and anxiety about performance. So, in relation to assessment, the low level of abstraction and high level of observability of the students' behavior, like those given in the table, have two important practical advantages. So, the first is that it is easy for teachers and other students who are regularly around individual students to experience directly what is asked of them to score. For example, does the child have friends without the requirement for an investment in training? The second is that low scores on particular item for a particular student or group of students have obvious implications for intervention. For example, students who have low scores on confidence in abilities and willingness to work hard may benefit from growth mindset training. So, students who are frequently late in class or absent from school may need counseling and an intervention with parents. So, students who are aggressive with peers and quick to anger may benefit from training on how to think about and reframe the actions of others before reacting automatically. So administrators and teachers can identify both individuals, students, and classroom that need additional help. So a classroom in which a lot of students are receiving low scores on self-management skills is is a classroom in which the teacher needs help in classroom. So that's all for my report. I hope you learned something. Thank you.
Now let's discuss the taxonomy of educational objectives. So taxonomy in the affected domain contains a large number of objectives in the literature expresses interest, attitudes, appreciations, values, and emotional sets or biases. So the descriptions of each step in the taxonomy culled from Kraftwerk's taxonomy of affective domain are given as follows. First, we have receiving. So this is being aware of or sensitive to the existence of certain ideas, materials, or phenomena and being willing to tolerate them. So an example for that is to differentiate, uh, to accept, to listen for, or to respond to. Okay? Next is the responding. So this is being committed in some small measures to the ideas, materials, or phenomena involved by actively responding to them. An example to that is to comply with, or to commend, or to volunteer, okay, or to spend leisure time. Okay, that's an example of responding. Next is devaluing. This is you're willing to be perceived by others as attaching importance. Okay, that's attaching importance to a certain ideas, materials, or phenomena. An example for that is to increase measured proficiency in, okay, or you can also have it to support, okay, that's an example. And we also have the organization, okay, so this is relating the value to those already held and bringing it into a harmonious and internally consistent philosophy. Okay, so an example for that is an example of a verb. Okay, for that is to formulate. Okay, or to balance. Okay, okay, and lastly is characterization. By value or value is to act consistently in accordance with the values he or she has internalized. Okay, all right. So that's um yeah. Alright, now let's proceed to the methods, okay? And this will be discussed by Risha. Okay.
Hi everyone, good day. I am Risha Anbusho, your facilitator. For the continuation, let us proceed to the methods of assessing learning in the affective domain. Changing of attitude, values, and habits is the result of effective teaching learning in the affective domain, specifically in doing assessment, because in attitudes it may change your belief, feelings, and aspiration. However, a popular method of assessing learning in the affective domain is the observation. So, according to Macmillan, 2007, gives three feasible methods of assessing learning or learners' development in the affective domain. The first in the list is teacher observation, and the two others are student self-report and peer ratings. Furthermore, these are the methods that are assessing theming in the affective domain can use these tools such as Likert scale, semantic differential, checklist, and sentence completion. This will be discussed after these methods of effective assessment.
So the first in the list is teacher observation. The teacher observation can be unstructured or structured. It is unstructured when observation is open-ended. So the teacher's observation is not limited to items in a checklist or rating scale. The teacher observation is structured when he or she is guided in what to observe by a checklist or rating scale. To make teacher observation work in relation to the assessment of affective learning, the following should be observed. Determine behaviors to be observed in advance. Second is to record students' important data such as time, data, and place. Third is, if unstructured, record brief descriptions of relevant behaviors. Fourth is keep interpretation separate from description. Fifth is to record both positive and negative behaviors. Sixth is have as much observation of each student as necessary. Seventh is to avoid personal bias and be objective. Eighth is to immediately record the observation, and lastly is to apply a simple and efficient procedure. So a student may also do observation of a classmate or peer for his or her peer observation to be reliable like the teacher. The overall purpose of the observation must be made clear. So next is the student self-report. So a student's self-report requires the students to provide an account of his or her attitude or feelings toward a concept or idea or a people. So a self-report is also referred to as written reflections. A teacher may require a student to write his or her thoughts on topics like why I like or dislike physics or why I like or dislike coming to school. A student's self-report can also be derived by way of a student interview or by way of a questionnaire and survey. So the teacher may interview a student on whether the student likes or hates physics as a subject and why. So one advantage of an interview is teacher can prove into the answers of the students right there and then. So another means to derive a student self-report is by way of a survey and a questionnaire. So this survey and questionnaire can make use of a constructed response format like an essay or why is physics my favorite subject or why is physics my pet peeve. So maybe the title of an essay that teacher asks the students to write about is to determine the student's attitude towards physics. Or teacher may get a student self-report by means of a selected response format by means of assessment tools such as a checklist, a rating scale like a Likert scale or a semantic differential scale. So below are the next slide are the examples. So peer ratings. So how else may a teacher know if a student is realizing the intended learning outcome in the affective domain other than teacher observing the students or the student making a report about himself or herself? Another way is to ask the student's peer to rate him or her on effective items where teachers want to rate the students. Ideally, teachers' observation of a student's realization of effective learning outcomes should coincide with students' self-report and that of peer rating of the student. Many times it does not happen. However, so, what is more reliable way of assessing effective learning outcomes? So, effective assessment tools, the different methods of assessing learning or developing in the affective domain, namely observation, student self-report, and peer ratings make use of assessment tools such as Likert scale, semantic differential, checklist, sentence completion, and students' written reflection. So, Likert scale. So, a Likert scale is one example of a rating scale. It makes use of a 5-point scale from strongly agree, disagree, undecided, agree, and strongly agree. So, below are the Likert scale used to assess students' attitude towards teaching as a profession to determine each student's attitude towards teaching after a lesson on teaching as a profession. So, Rish,
Hi, good day again. I'm back. So let us proceed to the sentence completion. Sentence completion is to ask the student to complete the given incomplete sentence related to the intended learning outcomes. According to Winear and Greener at the year of 2008, this method of effective assessment tools is based on an idea that sentence completion will reveal more about the thoughts, fantasy, and emotional conflicts of the student than testing with direct questions. To be more understandable, here are some sentence stem that can serve as a scaffolding to help the students to get started the sentence completion. The first one is, in my opinion, I assume, from my point of view, if you ask me, as far as I can tell, to my mind, the way I see things is that it seems to me that I believe, I would say, I consider, it's my belief that I honestly believe that to my thinking and I feel. So, the next effective assessment tool is the semantic differential. It is a student to ask to assess his or her science class as a whole by way of semantic differential scale. Semantic differential scale is to measure the connotative meaning of things. Also, these scales are pair of adjectives on feelings or beliefs that are opposite. For example, the word heart is defined as the organ of the body that pumps blood around it. Its connotative meaning is love or heartache, but in the scale is used in surveys to gauge people's feelings towards a particular subject. The second to the last effective assessment tool is the checklist. Checklists are the most common and perhaps the easiest instrument to construct an effective domain. It is a student that he or she simply check an item that is observed, present, or possessed. So the student is asked to evaluate the extent to which or he or she possesses a growth mindset. The last effective assessment tool is students' written reflection. Students' written reflection are called sometimes self-report because the teacher requires the student to write their thoughts or express on a given topic, so that the teacher wants to ensure that the students write something which would demonstrate the various levels of taxonomy. I think that's all. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to message our group. Again, I am Risha Bushu, together with Gwen, Fiona Mile Alcebes, and Maribel Baal. Thank you for listening.
Okay, now let's proceed to the application. So here's the instruction. You will be given a link of the exit ticket to know about your learning at the end of the lesson. Okay, you will be asked to answer the questions provided. Once done, you will download a file as a PNG to your laptop or desktop computer. Then send it to one of the facilitator. Okay, and that's the end of our discussion, and thank you for listening.